The massive alien space station hung in the void like a metallic city, its lights twinkling against the star field. Admiral Marcus Blake stood on the bridge of the UES Meridian, watching as dozens of alien warships moved into position around them. Each vessel was easily twice the size of his own ship, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. "Sir, we're receiving another transmission from the station," reported Lieutenant Emma Roberts from her communications post. Her voice carried a slight tremor that she tried to hide. 3 months ago, she had been monitoring radio signals from Earth's outer colonies. Now she was humanity's first contact with an entire galaxy of alien civilizations. Blake nodded calmly. "Put it through, Lieutenant." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a creature that looked like it had crawled out of humanity's darkest nightmares. Admiral Vextal of the Hegemony stood nearly 3 meters tall, his chitinous armor gleaming under harsh artificial lights. 6 arms extended from his torso, each ending in clawed appendages that could tear through steel. His mandibles clicked constantly as he spoke, a sound the translation system rendered as either amusement or contempt. "Human vessel," Vextal's voice boomed through the bridge speakers, "you approach Council space with singular arrogance. Where is your fleet? Where are your escort ships? Do you mock us with this pathetic display?" Blake stepped forward, his hands clasped behind his back in a gesture that had become habitual during his 30 years of naval service. "Admiral Vextal, I am Admiral Blake of the United Earthship Meridian. We come in peace, requesting audience with the Galactic Council as previously arranged." "One ship," hissed another voice. The screen split to show Ambassador Krethak, a serpentine creature whose scales shifted color with her emotions. Currently, they displayed deep red patterns that the briefing materials had identified as anger or frustration. "You send one ship to meet the combined might of 17 species. Either you are fools, or you believe us to be fools." Captain James Harrison, humanity's lead diplomatic officer, moved to stand beside Blake. Unlike the Admiral's military bearing, Harrison carried himself with the easy confidence of someone who had spent years negotiating with hostile parties. "Ambassador, with respect, the Meridian represents our standard first contact protocol. We see no need for additional vessels." The silence that followed stretched for nearly 30 seconds. Blake could see the alien commanders exchanging glances, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and electronic tones. Finally, Commander Thexwin of the Void Runners leaned into view. His species resembled giant insects, with 4 arms and multifaceted eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Standard protocol?" Thexwin's translator gave his words a buzzing quality. "You enter our space with a single vessel and call this standard? What manner of beings are you?" Dr. Helen Carter, the expedition's chief scientist, stepped forward with a gentle smile that had disarmed hostile negotiators from the corporate boardrooms of Mars to the mining stations of the asteroid belt. "We are explorers, Commander. We come seeking knowledge and friendship, not conquest." This statement seemed to confuse the aliens even more. Blake watched their reactions carefully, noting how their various species expressed bewilderment. Mandibles clicked faster, scales shifted to different colors, and electronic harmonics rose in pitch. "Impossible," declared Admiral Vextal. "Every species achieves spaceflight through conflict. Every civilization builds warships before exploration vessels. Where are your conquered worlds? Your slave races? Your military dominance?" Lieutenant Colonel David Mitchell, the team's military advisor, spoke up with genuine curiosity. "Why would we need those things?" The question hung in space like an unexploded bomb. Blake could see the alien commanders struggling to process what they were hearing. These were civilizations that had fought their way to the stars, species that understood only strength and dominance. The concept of peaceful exploration seemed as foreign to them as their appearance was to humanity. "You must understand our position," explained Chancellor Mordeth, the Council's eldest member. His species resembled walking trees, with bark-like skin and eyes that glowed with ancient wisdom. "In our experience, any race capable of interstellar travel has proven their worth through warfare. We mobilized 12 fleets to meet you because we assumed you would arrive with comparable force." Blake looked around his bridge at the small crew that represented humanity among the stars. 23 men and women who had volunteered to journey into the unknown, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of 10 billion humans back on Earth. None of them were soldiers in the traditional sense. They were scientists, diplomats, engineers, and explorers. "Admiral Vextal," Blake said finally, "perhaps our differences in approach reflect our different histories. Humanity did not reach the stars through conquest, but through curiosity. We built the Meridian not as a weapon of war, but as a bridge between worlds. Pretty words, sneered Vextal. But words mean nothing without power to back them. You sit surrounded by 300 warships, each one capable of reducing your vessel to cosmic dust. What possible response could you have to such overwhelming force? Blake smiled, an expression that didn't translate well to most of the alien species watching. Admiral, I believe you'll find that the situation is not quite what it appears to be. Before Vextal could respond, the transmission ended. The alien fleet maintained its positions around the human ship, a cage of firepower that could annihilate the Meridian in seconds. But something in Blake's tone had planted seeds of doubt in alien minds. They had expected fear, desperation, or anger. Instead, they had encountered calm confidence that spoke of hidden depths. The UES Meridian continued its steady approach to the Council Station, carrying within its hull secrets that would forever change the galaxy's understanding of power, peace, and the thin line between civilization and chaos. The docking bay of Council Station Omega stretched out like a vast metal cavern, its ceiling lost in shadows high above. Captain Harrison led his small team across the polished floor, their footsteps echoing in the enormous space. The human ship looked tiny compared to the alien vessels that normally used this facility, like a rowboat pulled up beside battleships. 50 alien warriors stood in perfect formation, representing the major species of the Council. Their weapons gleamed under the harsh lights, and their armor bore the scars of countless battles. This was meant to be impressive, Harrison knew. A show of strength to remind the humans exactly how outnumbered they were. Admiral Vextal stepped forward, his massive form casting a shadow over the human delegation. Up close, he was even more intimidating than he had appeared on the screen. His chitinous armor bore deep gouges from weapons fire, and his 6 arms moved with predatory grace. "Welcome to Council Space, humans," Vextal announced, his mandibles clicking rapidly. "I trust your journey was educational." "Very much so," Harrison replied calmly. "Your star charts were extremely helpful." Behind Vextal, Ambassador Krethak slithered closer. Her serpentine form moved with fluid precision, scales shifting from red to amber as she studied the humans with unblinking eyes. "Your vessel appears quite ordinary, Captain. Surely this cannot represent your most advanced technology." Dr. Carter stepped forward with her characteristic gentle smile. "The Meridian represents current human engineering standards, Ambassador. Nothing more, nothing less." This answer seemed to puzzle the aliens even more. Commander Thexwin buzzed with agitation, his 4 arms gesturing rapidly. "Current standards? You bring standard equipment to meet the Galactic Council. Should we have brought something else?" asked Lieutenant Colonel Mitchell, his tone suggesting genuine curiosity rather than sarcasm. The question created an uncomfortable silence. Several alien officers exchanged glances, their various forms of body language suggesting confusion and growing concern. They had expected either primitive technology that could be easily dismissed, or advanced weaponry that would justify their massive military response. Chancellor Mordeth, ancient even by his species' long-lived standards, stepped forward slowly. His bark-like skin creaked with age, but his glowing eyes remained sharp and alert. "Most species, Captain Harrison, arrive with their finest vessels, their most advanced technology, their greatest warriors. It is traditional to demonstrate capability during first contact." Harrison nodded thoughtfully. "An interesting tradition, Chancellor. On Earth, we have found that actions speak louder than displays. The Meridian's capabilities will become apparent if the situation requires it." Admiral Vextal's mandibles clicked faster, a sound that the humans had learned indicated either amusement or growing anger. "If the situation requires it? Captain, you are surrounded by 12 fleets. Your single ship faces 300 warships. What possible capability could justify such confidence?" "Admiral," Dr. Carter interrupted gently, "perhaps we might continue this discussion in more comfortable surroundings? I believe you mentioned quarters for our delegation." As they walked through the station's corridors, alien crew members lined the walls to catch a glimpse of the mysterious humans. Harrison noticed the mixture of emotions in their expressions. Some showed curiosity about these strange new beings. Others displayed barely concealed contempt for what they saw as either primitive fools or dangerous madmen. The observation lounge overlooked the docking bay where the Meridian sat alone on its landing platform. Through the massive windows, the human ship appeared peaceful and unremarkable, its hull unmarked by battle damage or weapon ports. It looked more like an exploration vessel than a warship. Back on the Meridian, Admiral Blake monitored the proceedings from his command chair. Commander Walsh looked up from her tactical station, concern evident in her voice. "Sir, I'm reading increased scanning activity from the alien vessels. They're trying to penetrate our hull with deep sensor probes. Blake remained calm, his hands folded in his lap. Let them look, Commander. Standard passive scans will only reveal what we choose to show them. On the bridge of the Hegemony flagship, Vextal's weapons officer was becoming increasingly frustrated with his readings. Admiral, their ship's composition is unusual. The hull appears to be simple titanium steel alloy, but our deep scans are being deflected somehow. Stealth technology? Vextal wondered aloud. Unknown, sir. It's as if their ship appears completely ordinary on the surface, but becomes impossible to fully analyze the deeper we probe. In the council chambers, Harrison and his team were being given a presentation designed to overwhelm newcomers with the complexity and power of galactic civilization. Holographic displays showed vast trade networks, massive military fleets, and technological marvels that spanned entire star systems. Ambassador Krethak concluded the presentation with obvious pride. As you can see, the Council maintains order through strength. Each member species contributes ships, resources, and warriors to our collective defense. What could humanity possibly offer to such an arrangement? Harrison considered the question carefully, aware that his answer would be analyzed by every intelligence agency in the galaxy. We would offer what we have always offered, Ambassador. Our willingness to stand between civilization and whatever threatens it. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the ambient noise from the station's systems seemed to pause as alien minds processed this unexpected response. Chancellor Mordeth leaned forward, his ancient eyes studying the human captain with new interest. And you believe one ship can make such a stand, Captain? If necessary, Harrison replied simply. The simplicity of his answer was more unsettling than any boast could have been. These aliens had built their civilizations on the principle that survival required overwhelming force. They understood threats backed by massive fleets, economic pressure supported by entire planets, and diplomatic negotiations conducted from positions of strength. What they did not understand was quiet confidence backed by capabilities they could not measure or comprehend. The humans sat calmly in the heart of their greatest military stronghold, surrounded by enough firepower to sterilize worlds, and showed no sign of fear or concern. Outside in the void, the UES Meridian continued its patient wait, its true nature hidden behind technology that would not be fully understood until circumstances forced its revelation. The galaxy's most powerful civilizations continued their desperate attempts to understand what they faced, unaware that they were already completely at the mercy of those they sought to intimidate. The war games began at dawn, station time. Admiral Blake watched from the Meridian's bridge as alien warships moved into new formations around the Council station. What they called routine fleet exercises looked more like preparation for battle. "They're not being very subtle about it," observed Commander Walsh, her fingers dancing across the tactical display. Bright red dots showed Hegemony cruisers conducting attack runs that brought them dangerously close to the human ship. "Subtlety isn't the point," Blake replied, his voice calm as always. "They want to see how we react when they push us." Captain Harrison's voice crackled over the communication system from the station. "Admiral, the Council is asking us to move the Meridian to a safer position. They say our current docking bay is needed for their exercises." Blake smiled slightly. "How thoughtful of them. Tell them we'll stay right where we are, Captain. The Meridian can handle a little rough weather." On the Council station, the human diplomatic team watched the exercises from the observation deck. Dr. Carter noticed how the alien officers kept glancing at them, studying their faces for any sign of fear or panic. "They're testing us," she whispered to Lieutenant Colonel Mitchell. "Good," Mitchell whispered back. "Let them test all they want." The first real test came when 6 Void Runner interceptors accidentally strayed into the Meridian's defensive space. Their weapon systems powered up with a high-pitched whine that could be heard even through the station's thick walls. Warning alarms began blaring on both the human ship and the alien vessels. On the Meridian's bridge, Blake remained seated in his captain's chair. He watched the tactical display with the same calm expression he might use while reading a weather report. "Commander Walsh, what's our status?" 6 interceptors, sir. They have weapons locked onto our position but haven't fired yet. Looks like standard intimidation tactics to me." "I agree. Take no action, Commander. Let's see how far they're willing to push this game." The Void Runner ships held their threatening position for 10 long minutes. Their weapons remained hot and ready to fire, waiting for some sign that the humans were frightened or angry. When no reaction came, they reluctantly powered down their systems and moved back to a safe distance. Admiral Vextal's voice boomed across the station's communication channels. "Human vessel Meridian, You failed to respond to a weapons lock. Are your defensive systems broken? Blake activated the open channel so his response could be heard by every ship in the alien fleet. Our defensive systems are working perfectly, Admiral. We saw no reason to respond to ships that posed no real threat. The statement sent waves of confusion through the alien fleet. How could the humans be so sure that the interceptors posed no threat? Did they have some kind of advanced shielding? Hidden weapons that could destroy attackers instantly? Or were they simply prepared to die rather than show weakness? The second test came 6 hours later. A hegemony battlecruiser, massive and bristling with weapons, accelerated directly toward the docked Meridian. The alien ship's engines roared as it built up speed, aiming straight for the human vessel like a metal comet. At the last possible second, just meters away from collision, the battlecruiser veered sharply to the side. The maneuver was designed to trigger panic and force the human ship to reveal whatever hidden defenses it might have. Instead, the Meridian remained perfectly still. Its crew seemed completely unconcerned by the massive warship that had nearly rammed them. No shields went up, no weapons charged, no emergency maneuvers were attempted. "Sir," the battlecruiser's pilot reported to Admiral Vextal, his voice shaking slightly. "They didn't even try to get out of the way. No defensive reaction at all. It's like they knew exactly how close we would come without hitting them." Vextal's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Or maybe they simply don't care if they live or die." "That's what worries me, sir." The final test was designed to be decisive. A full squadron of 12 hegemony destroyers would stage a coordinated weapons malfunction. They would fire their plasma cannons just close enough to the human ship to register as hostile action, but far enough away to avoid actually causing damage. If the humans had any hidden defenses, this would surely force them to reveal their capabilities. The attack came at 3 in the morning, when most diplomatic personnel were assumed to be sleeping. 12 destroyers opened fire at the same moment, their plasma bolts streaking through space toward the Meridian like burning spears. What happened next would be studied by alien military analysts for years to come. The human ship didn't move. It didn't raise energy shields. It didn't fire back. Instead, something impossible occurred. The plasma bolts simply stopped in mid-flight, as if they had hit an invisible wall around the human vessel. For a moment that seemed to last forever, 12 destroyer-class plasma bursts hung motionless in space. Their deadly energy was contained within perfect spheres that looked like crystallized starlight. The weapon fire that should have vaporized the Meridian was frozen in place like insects trapped in amber. Then, with a gentleness that spoke of incredible control, the trapped energy was redirected. Not back at the attacking ships, which would have been an act of war, but into empty space where it dispersed harmlessly among the distant stars. Admiral Vextal stared at his tactical display in complete silence. His best ships and most powerful weapons had just been made completely useless by technology that worked on principles he couldn't even imagine. The plasma fire had been stopped, contained, and disposed of as easily as someone might catch and release a harmless butterfly. On the Meridian's bridge, Blake calmly made an entry in the ship's log. Hostile fire incident at 0347 hours. No damage sustained. No casualties reported. Defensive systems performed within normal parameters. Commander Walsh looked up from her station, trying to hide her amazement at what she had just witnessed. "Admiral, we're receiving communication requests from everyone in the fleet. They all want to talk." Blake nodded slowly. "I think it's time for Captain Harrison to have another conversation with the Council. They've learned what they wanted to know." Throughout the alien fleet, a new understanding was beginning to take hold. They hadn't been testing a primitive species making first contact. They had been poking at a sleeping dragon that had chosen, for reasons of its own, to let them live. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council began before sunrise, station time. All 17 member species crowded into the main chamber, their various forms creating a bizarre collection of claws, scales, tentacles, and armor. The air buzzed with nervous energy as Admiral Vextal stood before the massive display screen, showing recordings from the night's attack. The plasma fire was completely neutralized, he reported, his usual arrogance replaced by something that sounded almost like fear. Not deflected or absorbed. The energy was stopped in space and then redirected with precision that suggests technology far beyond anything we understand. Ambassador Krethak coiled nervously in her chair, her scales shifting through colors that indicated deep anxiety. Could this be some form of energy manipulation we haven't seen before? "Unknown," replied Chancellor Mordeth, his ancient voice carrying centuries of wisdom and experience. "But the implications are terrifying. If the humans can neutralize our most powerful weapons so easily, What else might they be capable of? In the center of the chamber, Captain Harrison sat calmly between Dr. Carter and Lieutenant Colonel Mitchell. They had been summoned to this emergency session not as honored guests, but as the focus of increasingly urgent discussions about galactic security. Commander Thexwin leaned forward, all four of his arms spread wide in a gesture of confused desperation. Captain Harrison, we must ask directly. What is the true nature of your vessel? Harrison looked at his companions before answering. The UES Meridian is exactly what I've told you from the beginning. A ship that represents current human engineering standards. Impossible, Admiral Vextal snapped, his mandibles clicking rapidly with agitation. No species achieves such technological advancement without centuries of warfare and conquest. Where are your battles? Your conquered planets? Your enslaved races? Dr. Carter spoke up with her usual gentle tone. We don't have any of those things, Admiral. Humanity developed along a different path than you might expect. The chamber erupted in disbelieving noise. Dozens of alien languages mixed together in a symphony of confusion and fear. Chancellor Mordeth raised one gnarled hand for silence. Dr. Carter, you must understand our confusion. Every species in this chamber reached the stars through military necessity. We built weapons first, exploration ships second. Yet your vessel suggests technology that surpasses our greatest achievements. Perhaps, Harrison said quietly, that's because we built exploration ships first. Lieutenant Colonel Mitchell stood slowly, his movement drawing attention from every alien in the room. If I may, Council members, I think there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about humanity's intentions. Explain, growled Vextal. Mitchell activated a small device that projected a three-dimensional image of their ship above the conference table. Technical specifications appeared around the hologram, making several alien delegates gasp in shock. You've been asking why we only sent one ship, Mitchell continued calmly. The question you should be asking is why we sent this particular ship. The hologram rotated slowly, showing details that made even the most experienced military commanders lean forward in their seats. The UES Meridian isn't our diplomatic vessel. It's not our exploration ship. It's not even our most advanced warship. He paused, letting his words sink in. It's our most dangerous ship. The silence that followed was so complete that Harrison could hear the station's life support systems humming in the walls. He could hear alien hearts beating, air being drawn into lungs that had never breathed Earth's atmosphere, the soft whisper of scaled skin against metal chairs. Dangerous in what way? Whispered Ambassador Krethak. Dr. Carter answered with scientific precision. The Meridian was designed as a test vessel for technologies that our researchers worried might be too destructive to use. Its defensive systems don't just stop weapons. They can redirect energy on a scale that could theoretically destabilize entire star systems. Theoretically? Asked Chancellor Mordeth. We've never tested the upper limits, Harrison admitted. We were afraid of what we might accomplish. Admiral Vextal's voice was barely audible. You brought your most dangerous weapon to first contact. We brought our most dangerous weapon, Mitchell corrected, to show you that we don't need to use it. Every ship in your fleet could have been destroyed within minutes of our arrival. Instead, we chose to dock peacefully and request conversation. The truth hit the assembled delegates like a physical blow. They had surrounded the humans with overwhelming firepower, conducted aggressive maneuvers, even attacked their ship directly. Throughout all of this, they had been completely at the mercy of the beings they were trying to intimidate. Commander Thexwin's voice shook as he asked the question that terrified them all. How many ships like this do you have? Harrison exchanged glances with his team before answering carefully. The Meridian is unique. But the principles behind its construction can be applied to other vessels. Why? The question came from Chancellor Mordeth. Why reveal this to us? Why not simply conquer us or force us to submit? Dr. Carter smiled sadly. Because conquest brought every species in this room to space travel. You developed weapons out of necessity, explored the stars to escape your wars, built this council to prevent total destruction. But humanity followed a different path. She gestured toward the star charts on the chamber's walls. We explored space because we were curious about what was out there. We developed these technologies because we wondered if such things were possible. We came here not to rule, but to learn and share. The Meridian represents our commitment to peace, Harrison added. We could destroy your entire fleet, but we choose not to. We could demand surrender, but we ask for friendship instead. We could rule this galaxy, but we'd rather explore it together with you. The chamber remained silent as the delegates tried to process this unprecedented situation. They had spent centuries building their civilization on the principle that power determined all relationships. Now they faced a species that possessed ultimate power but chose restraint instead. Admiral Vextal finally broke the silence with a simple question. What do you want from us? Harrison's answer was equally simple. We want to be friends. As the session ended, alien delegates filed out in stunned silence. They had expected to judge whether humanity deserved to join galactic civilization. Instead, they found themselves wondering if they were worthy of humanity's friendship. 3 weeks after the revelation, the Galactic Council chambers witnessed something that had never happened before in their 1,000-year history. For the first time, membership was being offered not because a species had proven their strength in battle, but because they had shown wisdom in choosing peace over war. Captain Harrison stood before the assembled delegates, no longer seen as the representative of a mysterious and possibly dangerous species. Now he was recognized as humanity's ambassador, speaking for a civilization that had changed every assumption about power and survival in the galaxy. Chancellor Mordeth, his ancient bark-like skin creaking with age, spoke the formal words that would echo through history. The Galactic Council hereby offers full membership to the species known as humanity, recognizing their advanced technology, their commitment to peace, and their... He paused, searching for words that had never been needed before, their wisdom in choosing restraint when they could have chosen dominance. Admiral Blake watched the ceremony from the Meridian's bridge, surrounded by his officers who had become legends simply by doing their jobs. The alien fleet still surrounded them, but now the ship served as an honor guard rather than a threatening cage. Each vessel's crew was eager to learn from their new allies. "Sir," reported Commander Walsh, barely able to contain her excitement, "we're receiving requests from all 17 species. They want technology exchanges, cultural programs, joint exploration missions, scientific cooperation agreements. The communication board is completely full." Blake smiled, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders that he hadn't realized he'd been carrying. "Inform Captain Harrison that we'll need to expand our diplomatic team significantly. I suspect we're going to be very busy in the coming months." Dr. Carter had spent the past weeks in intensive meetings with alien scientists, carefully sharing selected human technologies. Medical advances that could cure diseases which had plagued entire civilizations for centuries. Energy systems that could power entire worlds without destroying their environments. Communication methods that could unite species separated by vast distances and cultural differences. "The most interesting aspect," she explained to a gathering of xenobiologists from 12 different species, "is that humanity developed these innovations not for military purposes, but for pure scientific research. Our curiosity about the universe drove us to understand how things work, and practical applications followed naturally from that knowledge." The alien scientists listened with fascination as she described human research methods. They had always assumed that advanced technology required warfare to drive innovation. The idea that curiosity alone could produce such remarkable results was revolutionary to their way of thinking. Lieutenant Colonel Mitchell found himself in an even stranger position. He was teaching alien military commanders about something they had never encountered before, the philosophy of necessary restraint. "Power without purpose becomes destruction," he explained to a room full of admirals and generals who had spent their careers learning how to use overwhelming force. The Meridian could eliminate any threat to humanity instantly, but doing so would make us the very thing we sought to avoid becoming, conquerors who rule through fear. Admiral Vextal, his earlier hostility replaced by genuine respect, asked the question that troubled many alien military leaders. "How do you maintain discipline among warriors who possess such incredible power?" Mitchell's answer was simple but profound. "We teach them that the greatest victory is the war you never have to fight." As the membership ceremony concluded, Harrison was approached by Ambassador Krethak. Her serpentine form moved with graceful elegance rather than the predatory menace she had displayed during their first meeting. "Captain," she said quietly, her scales showing the soft blue patterns that indicated thoughtfulness among her people, "my species has spent thousands of years believing that survival required dominance over others. Your people have shown us a completely different way of thinking. But I must ask, how can we trust that humanity will always choose restraint over conquest?" Harrison considered her question carefully, understanding that his answer would be analyzed by intelligence agencies across the galaxy. "You can't trust us completely," he admitted honestly. "Just as we can't guarantee that any species will always choose peace over war. What we can do is build relationships strong enough that war becomes unthinkable." He gestured toward the observation windows, where human and alien crews were already working side by side on joint scientific projects. The best way to ensure peace isn't through overwhelming force. It's through overwhelming friendship. On distant Earth, news of the successful first contact sent waves of celebration through humanity's home system. But in the corridors of human government and military command, serious discussions were already underway about the next phase of their galactic involvement. Admiral Sarah Thompson, Earth's Chief of Naval Operations, reviewed reports from the Meridian with mixed emotions. "We've opened the door to galactic civilization," she told her senior staff, "but now we need to walk through it very carefully. The galaxy is vast, and not every species we encounter will be as reasonable as the Council members." Her concerns would prove to be wise. Already, deep space monitoring stations were detecting signals from beyond Council territory. Radio transmissions from civilizations that had chosen darker paths, built on conquest and the enslavement of weaker species. The Council's invitation to humanity had been motivated by hope, but it was also driven by practical fear. The galaxy was changing, ancient threats were beginning to stir in the outer regions, and they needed allies who understood both the power of advanced technology and the wisdom of using it responsibly. As the UES Meridian prepared to depart Council space for humanity's first joint exploration mission with their new allies, Captain Harrison stood on the bridge beside Admiral Blake. Through the viewscreen, they watched as human and alien ships formed up in perfect formation, ready to explore the unknown together. "Admiral," Harrison said quietly, "I have a feeling that first contact was actually the easy part of this whole adventure." Blake nodded, his eyes fixed on star charts showing unexplored regions far beyond Council territory. "Indeed, Captain. But at least now we won't be facing whatever's out there alone." The combined fleet engaged their faster-than-light drive simultaneously, disappearing into the cosmic darkness to seek new worlds and face new challenges that would test not just humanity's advanced technology, but their commitment to the principles that had made them the galaxy's most dangerous and most peaceful species.